Today's video is sponsored by SquareX. Detect, mitigate, and threat hunt. For the ultimate in browser detection and response, visit them today at squarex.com. In today's episode, I'm joined by the host of Microsoft Mechanics and director of Microsoft 365, Jeremy Chapman, as we delve into the latest features of Entra ID. FaceCheck, what is it? And more importantly, what can it do for you? Stay tuned and you'll find out. Hey everyone, Andy Malone, Microsoft MVP. Thanks so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. In today's episode, I'm joined by the host of Microsoft Mechanics and the director of Microsoft 365 himself, Jeremy Chapman, as we sit down to discuss Entra ID's latest feature, FaceCheck, an absolutely must-have feature when it comes to security and identity. So we're going to find out exactly what it is. Does it cost anything, and also how to implement it, and also what the experience is like. Now, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would love for you to come on board, bomb that subscribe button, ring that bell, and come and join my learning community. And if you've got any questions or any comments, we love those. Just drop those in the box below. So, I think without any further ado, let me introduce my colleague and friend, Jeremy Chapman from Microsoft over there in Redmond, and he's going to tell us all about FaceCheck. Hey Jeremy, great to see you. Welcome back. Hey Jeremy, how are you doing?
Hey Andy, good to see you again. Always great to catch up. Great topic today with Microsoft Entra again.
Absolutely. Okay. FaceCheck today, this is what we're talking about. When we talk about FaceCheck, really where does it fit in with the likes of Microsoft Entra ID and the Entra ID suite?
Yeah, so Microsoft Entra is, your all up kind of identity and access management suite. And, there's more in terms of like zero trust for networking coming in with kind of more of our global secure access that I think we covered last time when we met. And so all of these things together really accrue to having the best platform in terms of being able to do identity and access management. And one of those critical components, especially now with remote work being something, now with more AI, there's a lot more people kind of authenticating in that maybe you've never met in person before, that you don't know if it is really the person that you initially met, let's say, to go to a meeting or to work with you on, valuable source code or financial information. That's where you need kind of great tools that can basically authenticate the right people and make sure they are who they say they are, and go really beyond kind of that initial authentication. Because we've even seen like cases where, maybe during new employee onboarding, someone has onboarded legitimately as someone else, and then someone maybe in a malicious state actor kind of country has then spoofed their identity and worked as them as a developer or some other role. And this is actually getting more and more common these days. So you need a way to basically have that developer, wherever they are in another country, authenticate in, and they'd have to have the matching face that's alive and check with their phone for this to work. So this is a really good solution, basically, again, to prove you are who you say you are at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was going to say, because deep fake at the moment is huge. And there's a lot of concern over the likes of AI and it growing. So what kind of mechanisms, what kind of safety features does this have built within it?
Yeah, so we're going to go through all of that today. I just wanted to quickly, before we get started though, this was kind of fun in terms of building this, is like the final piece in the puzzle, because basically at Mechanics we'd done all the different Entra suite components, like we said, with global secure access for internet and private access. We also had, the kind of the identity governance portion with all the identity lifecycle management that we talked about last time we were on the call. And so now we've kind of added the last chapter in the book in terms of Entra Suite.
An obvious question is then, is how does it differ then with the likes of Windows Hello, for example, and, Apple's, facial recognition?
Yeah, so this is a question we get a lot. So Windows Hello, imagine... So when you set up a device, like a Windows machine or an iPhone or an Android phone, you are basically saying, okay, this is me when I log in. So I'm kind of a proxy for my PIN, because it's looking at either my face or my fingerprint or some biometric, and it's storing it on the phone and it's checking. But what the phone doesn't do is say, Okay, but what if you decided to give yourself a different name, and do you match the name on your driver's license or your passport? If you think about your phone, like I said, you basically are kind of using it to check locally on the device. It's staying all local on the device, but it's not checking against your ID. Whereas if you're looking at it from a liveness check, and looking at your web camera in real time, it's going back and comparing that to your identity that's basically on file with an identity verification company. Think of like Clear or those other companies that you're used to, or IDEMIA is the one that we demonstrated on mechanics recently, where basically they have that identity. So that way you can match against what they have on file, and then send that check down in the match level, like how confident it is in the check, to the app to say, okay, this person really is Andy Malone.
So you gave an example a moment ago of, for example, employee onboarding. Can you give us a demo of how that would work with FaceCheck?
Yeah, and that's one of the light up scenarios, and it's one of the things that we've been doing with verified ID for a while, and this kind of adds to that story, making it even more robust in the sense that before I get to a state where I'm fully provisioned and get access to resources, I've proven again my identity with my face, and that I am the one behind the camera effectively. Let me show you what that looks like. So here is again something that we showed on our recent mechanics with Ankur Patel, who by the way is a brilliant, like the PM of all of this. So we're using his likeness here. So basically, when I sign up for a new employment, a new company that I'm working for, I'd give in my first and last name. And so we go ahead and do that here. And again, I'm Ankur Patel in this case. And so I'll go ahead and hit next. Now from there, we need to scan a QR code to go to our IDV partner site, which is in this case IDEMIA, who holds the kind of the identity for us. So in that case, I can go ahead and log in to their app, select my country. I can then choose the document type that I want to use. In this case, a driver's license. And when I do that, I can basically scan my document. And you've probably done this before for various traveling and other things here. And of course, we've blurred everything to protect Ankur's identity here. But now I've got a nice image of both front and back for IDEMIA. Again, this isn't going to Microsoft, this is going to IDEMIA. So now I have a verified ID that's sitting off of Microsoft's servers effectively in the IDEMIA area. So from there, I can basically sign in and get access to my resources and perform the face check. So now I have something to compare my face against with the ID that was just stored and kind of being mastered by IDEMIA in this case, so that we can compare those two in the cloud, send a confidence check, and then if you pass, it will authorize you to be able to use additional company resources. In this case here, we have the ability to retrieve maybe your employee ID specifically, and start purchasing hardware, those types of things once you're in. So that's what the end-to-end onboarding experience would look like. So it's pretty powerful in terms of being able to show you, being able to get you into an organization with the right security checks in place. And the nice thing with that IDEMIA identity in this case is you could use it for other things, like if your university or other events or other travel, etc., needed to use that identity, you could use them as another IDV provider for that service, because that identity is in your authenticator app and it's not technically bound to your employer. It's just something that you use with your employer for that last step, but you could use it with other entities as well.
So Jeremy, an obvious question is, a lot of identity obviously relies on the phone. What if we lost it? What would happen?
Yeah, and this is a really important case, especially if you're an admin too, being able to do things like break glass identity recovery. And what would that look like if I needed to again prove who I am, and I've got no ability to provide sometimes a first or second factor of authentication other than maybe my user principal name to call into a help desk. That's where we have another solution, and that's kind of this along the same lines, and what we kind of alluded to in the last little bit of the graphic. But basically, let's say that I'm the help desk and I've got a site that's more or less open for employees to be able to hit. This would give them the ability to call in and basically use a QR code in terms of being able to prove again with their face check and verified ID who they are. So that way the help desk will get a confidence measure of the person that's calling them to make sure, in this case, again, Ankur matches Ankur in the employee system. That way they can effectively validate his identity and reset credentials. And so you have a nice solution there. It goes even one step further though, because imagine all the times where you want to you've got bank information, and this is something that, in basically every company portal, like where does my paycheck go every 2 weeks? And, it'd be bad if somebody compromised my credentials and said, send it to my offshore bank account in the Bahamas or, Swiss bank account or wherever. And so you want to be able to protect those types of things. So this is, again, where you can basically, you can take your site and you can enlighten it to use FaceCheck for step-up authentication. So for example, if I want to change my bank deposit details so that, I don't want it easily changed for somebody who's maybe compromised my account, they have to prove they are me in order for them to change the bank account information to their bank account, because I don't want to lose a few paychecks before we get this sorted out. And this is the kind of stuff that, again, you wouldn't be able to do this without, like in the old days, you'd have to walk up to a person and then prove your identity. And now you can basically do this remotely using your identity that's kind of stored in that trusted system, and then be able to verify online who you are indeed the person that's trying to make that change. So you've got a lot more security around that.
Okay, that sounds cool. In terms of, obviously, Microsoft are doing a great job with this. What about kind of your partner ecosystem? How's it relating with them, and how's it moving forward with those?
Yeah, so basically on the partner side, we've got a lot of partners you've probably seen and heard of and used a lot of them, like LexisNexis, Vue, OnFido, Jumio, IDEMIA, Clear, a lot of these different brands that you've seen even as you get credit or as you travel. These are the things that basically, you're using for other, again, this is separate from the Microsoft Entra ecosystem and environment, in the sense that these identity documents are being stored with these trusted providers so that we can call their APIs, pull up the required documentation and photo ID, etc., and then do the checks.
So it's, for example, if you were doing FaceCheck against a government, some kind of database, passport, driver's license, something like that, it's those guys that are actually holding the information. You're just kind of acting as a pass-through kind of agent almost, if you will.
Right. I don't know if you travel with Clear, for example, but I do, and so that's another IDV partner. So, and those are really handy because I can just walk up and basically show my face, and that's all I need to authenticate. It's along the same lines. We're calling those same APIs when you're requesting an authentication with the service.
I was going to say, you've just made a good point there. If I'm on a website, like I go to my bank account or something like that, how does it actually work from the website side?
I've got a demonstration here, a quick one, just in terms of the code and the elements that you would add to it. So you do need to enlighten your app. So there is some code involved, and there will be other options, again, with conditional access coming later. But basically, you need to be able to reach out to the credential provider. Then you need to configure what your rules are around it, and for example, what your confidence level threshold is. In this case, we've got 70% confidence threshold, and the photo is the source photo claim name in terms of what you're looking for. And so that way, you basically have to put this into your app, whether it's like a mobile app or a website, to be able to call this. And this is just an example JSON file that we have that you can get from the Learn documentation on Microsoft.com.
What about other scenarios where you might use this, as well as kind of obviously authentication? What if I, things like entitlement packages in Entra ID or something like that? Could this be used to grant access to those?
It could. So that's another good scenario, and it's something pretty new in terms of something that we've set up. So if you're using identity governance now, it's again part of Entra Suite, and again, all these things you can buy a la carte, but this is super powerful in terms of being able to set up access packages, entitlements effectively. If you not only are onboarding new, but let's say you're moving between the company or going to a different job title, or getting more senior in the organization where you're level of kind of maybe executive seniority gives you access to different information. That's where basically you can set up rules that allow different access packages to be provisioned to those people as they move through the org. So it's not all manual and you kind of requesting these different things. And now, like, let's say it's an important access package, you'd basically be able to use FaceCheck to prove again that you are who you say you are. So when you'd set one of these up, the new access packages and as part of ID governance, you do the normal things like giving it a name. This is for a new hire for sales, for example, but it could be a lateral move in the company. You'd assign the right applications, the right SharePoint sites if you wanted to for that individual that's newly to sales. Then here's where you basically would set up what the rules around the request. And this is the new part. So with verified ID, first you would set up who the issuer is. So in our case, we're going to use internal Woodgrove, and then true identity, which is kind of our demo IDV name, and require FaceCheck. And this is the check mark that makes it use FaceCheck. So then once you do that, you kind of finish out the access package policy as you normally would. And that way, when the user, and we're showing a manual request here, but it could be based on, say, group affinity with a dynamic group or something. Here, we're requesting access to that, and then it will perform the same FaceCheck with the QR code. And once that succeeds, then you'll basically have rights to be able to use that access package with, in our case, the Salesforce app and other things that we provisioned for that sales role.
Okay, so we've talked about kind of all the different scenarios of where we would use this. Obvious question is, as an Entra admin, how would I actually go ahead and set this up?
Yeah, we're all Entra admins, aren't we? So to set everything up, you would basically go into the Entra Admin Center, as you might imagine, and we're going to set it up from Verified ID. So the Verified ID page will basically, it has a nice kind of quick setup, get started button to get Verified ID set up. And that just takes a minute or so to be able to set it up. You can see it once it sets itself up, then you've got the option to do FaceCheck and turn that on. So yeah, so we turn that on. We define for pay-as-you-go in this case, our Azure subscription, as well as you'd have to define a resource group. So let me show you that. It's kind of just standard fare in terms of, setting up Azure. This is the same thing you do, by the way, for agents and Copilot, if you're wondering. We'll turn that on, and now we're enabled. You see the green check mark. So now this is running and good to go.
Now, I noticed there that the 25 cents a click, or 25 cents obviously a photo, that could be quite expensive, and I assume that's a pay-as-you-go option. Now, if I had a subscription to Entra Suite, for example, how would that look then?
Yeah, so for Entra Suite, you're prepaying for an allocation, and these are kind of early numbers. They may not be the exact kind of final numbers in terms of your prepaid allocations for the number of transactions and how that works, but effectively what you're going to see is there's a portion there that are kind of built in to what you're paying for from an Entra Suite standpoint. So that way you've got that flexibility to be able to use what you're buying in terms of a premium experience for the Entra Suite.
So it's almost like a mobile phone subscription. You get a package, basically. Okay.
Right.
Awesome videos, by the way, you seem to produce, obviously for Microsoft Mechanics.
Thank you. It's a village. It's a team effort. We've got about six or seven people that work on these all the time, from graphics artists to our producer, our editor, people they're filming, doing the audio and stuff. We're doing a lot of planning, as you can imagine, working with some of the smartest people like Anker, like we saw in this one, but all of the engineering talent at Microsoft. It's really great to be able to have the access that we do and create what we're creating.
Absolutely, and you're kind of right at the forefront of things as well. I guess you get to see things when they're kind of brand new, and just kind of emerging. Now, if I've never been to Microsoft Mechanics before, where do I go?
Well, I'll just give you one link here in this case for the Microsoft Entra stuff. So again, we've kind of created the entire book of Entra Suite and all the things that you can do. Of course, you can go to our main link, which is microsoft.com/mechanics. But if you go to aka.ms/Entra Suite Mechanics, you'll be able to see everything from the intro that Jared Boone presented in terms of all the parts of Entra Suite, and then we kind of break down each thing one by one. We did the the global secure access VPN one not too long ago. That's in there, and the verified ID one that we just published like a week ago, effectively, is there too. So I'd encourage everyone to check out this playlist specifically. If not, go to Microsoft.com/mechanics, and that will link you straight to our YouTube.
Awesome. And on the subject of YouTube, you've got your own little channel as well, Deploy Jeremy.
Yep.
And what do you do on that channel? What's the? I know you do.
So,
you've got some wonderful reviews of gadgets. I just love it.
Yeah, so I call that my baby channel because it's the smaller one of the channels that I work with. But yeah, that's just me and my own opinions and my own kind of. I after the pandemic, or during the pandemic, I should say, I started testing out a lot of camera gear and microphones and streaming things. And like right now, I've got this kind of crazy OBS and Stream Deck set up with a bunch of lighting and stuff in my house. It's always fun when I take relatives or friends through and they're like, well, what do you do here? Because it looks like a TV studio in this room. But basically all of these things. So we were testing out all the different cameras, and they're all, generally pretty bad from a microphone perspective, but they're getting better and better from a video capture perspective. So I've taken like the best sellers on Amazon, for example, to test all those. And then any new ones that come out where they're like promising to be the next best, greatest thing, most of the time they aren't. I'll be honest. But
and the thing is, you buy these things though, right? They don't give them to you, right? So any vendors out there,
these are all things, and it's maybe like my one weird addiction for gadgets. But I'll buy these things. These are not sponsored videos. I'll review them. I don't return them. So like a lot of people that bought, for example, Vision Pros back when they were new, it sounded like a lot of them bought that because of the $4,000 gadget, but then they would return it after they did the review, which is, I think, not a good practice if you're going to do the reviewing part. So I try to have some integrity in terms of buying these things. And most of the cameras that I buy are under $100, or tend to be like somewhere in the $50 to $100 range. But some of them are like $300. The only one that I have regretted buying was the Razer Kiyo Pro Ultra, where it was, I think, $350, and you could only buy it from their site at the time. And there are some things where it's just like, okay, because now that I've got drawers full of maybe 70 to 100 webcams, I'm still using, and this isn't a Sony A6100 that I'm using right now, the kind of a APS-C or full frame camera with a capture card and a dummy battery. You cannot replace that. The closest thing that I've found is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, which is a newer one, but it's still $500-ish if you don't get a good sale on it. And I got mine, I paid $300 for it right before the holiday. And that one's amazing, but everything else is kind of, compared to like a Sony APS-C camera, it's all kind of not great, but it depends on what you need. Like you're gonna have different levels of what you consider acceptable based on what you're doing. And so I try to put the facts out there and be pragmatic about it, and not try to say bad things about it, because the manufacturers are maybe putting something out for a lower price point. And yes, it isn't as good as, say, the most expensive thing, but that's a given because it costs, a third or a fifth the price of the other one.
Yeah. I just have this vision of visiting your house, opening your garage, and all of this kit falls out. I don't
know if you because you grew up in the UK, but like we used to have the Kool-Aid Man, and they would have them like break through walls and stuff. So yeah. I'm imagining at some point I'll stack up all my boxes and break through them and say, hey.
Hey, listen, I'll put all the descriptions down below of everything. I'll put your website and your YouTube and also mechanics in there. Hey, Jeremy, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. I really appreciate it. It's always fun. And I'll see you in Seattle in March. So thanks very much, Jeremy.
Thank you. Likewise, can't wait to see you at MVP Summit, and we're going to present there together. So it's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Take care.
See ya.
So there you have it, Jeremy Chapman. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I really do appreciate you dropping by. Great to see you once again. FaceCheck, wasn't that so cool? Hey, listen, if you enjoyed today's session, give me a big thumbs up. It does help the channel. And if you've not subscribed, well, come on board. Come and join our learning community. And if you've got questions, by all means, get those down below. That's it for this time. Thanks again, and I'll see you real soon. Take care. Hey, thanks so much for dropping by today. Here's a couple of videos that you may enjoy, and while you're here, go ahead, click on the subscribe button and you won't miss out.